everyone, and welcome back to the to the museum show and tell show with the Penetanguishene Museum and Huronia Museum.
Hi.
I'm a little off today, I guess, and we're off a day as well, and that's because Genevieve and I were actually in person together on this week. We're together for International Museum Day, which was May 18th, and we actually unveiled some time capsules in our community. So it was really nice to finally be seen together or meet each other. We haven't seen each other since before the pandemic, in person.
That's right.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. So we're going to come at you with this one on Friday this week because we've already seen each other once, but we are back with some great artifacts, and Genevieve threw out the challenge of something that was yellow.
I did.
So what do you have for us today?
Well, I'm staying on the topic of yesterday's time capsules.
Okay.
So we in Midland, we had our own high school, our own purpose-built high school by 1904. And that was this building right here. For any of you who are familiar with Midland, you will recognize that as the former Park Street School on Yonge Street. PSS, I'm not sure the date, I should have looked this up, but PSS or Penetanguishene also had its own high school fairly early on. And by 1953, there were a lot of problems in both towns for a number of reasons. So it was decent. Well, I read where was in early 1953 that the Penetanguishene High School Board had decided that they needed an addition to the school and the high school in Penetanguishene. The Midland High School Board also decided it needed an addition. I think that had been added on to a number of times, but they decided that they certainly could not fit enough students into the rooms they had. They needed more science classrooms. So under consultation with the township councils, so Midland, the town of Midland, town of Penetanguishene, Tiny Township councils, it was decided that they would kill 3 birds with 1 stone. They would build a new district high school in Midland on Hugo Avenue, on an extension of Hugo Avenue, because at this point, Hugo Avenue did not extend all the way up to Highway 93, as we call it today. And it was in Tay Township. So that would free up the Midland High School, this building right here, and they could have elementary school take it over, because a lot of the elementary schools in Midland were bursting at the seams. And that would free up this building right here, which was the Central School. Now, interestingly, the Central School in Midland, they decided that it was condemned. It was not suitable for a school for students anymore, but they could reuse it as the town hall. So I don't know. I don't know if it was decided that this school, they could tear it right down to the foundation, rebuild it, then you can have students in it. So I'm not sure if that was what they had decided for the town hall as well, just use the foundations in that property, or whether they decided that, adults could suck it up and use that as for their offices. Anyway, after a lot of wrangling, it was decided that they would, open a new school on the Hugo Avenue. So the school in Penetanguishene could close, and this new school would be called the Midland Penetang District High School. And that opened after a period of construction. It was 4 months overdue, and that was in January 5th, 1956 that it opened. And so what I've brought in today is a yellow beanie. These were not part of any school uniform. I have read that these were generally worn by members of the student population who attended sporting events, not the athletes, but those in the audience. So they had, so they'd wear these, they're kind of silly. And they also had, we have one in the collection, but I didn't pull it out. It was a pair of ribbons that were joined together. Ours has, strangely, a pipe cleaner elephant that holds them together. I don't know if there was any significance to that. The donor didn't know, but there were a pair of gold and yellow ribbons with Midland and Penetang printed on them. So you could wave them around, sort of like cheap pom-poms, I guess. So this is our yellow item. And these were the school colors before MPDHS was constructed. Well, the school was still called Midland High School or Midland District High School. That was, it was decided that the school colors would be yellow, white, and blue. So I assume then when the MPDHS was constructed that they decided on the purple and the yellow. And MPDHS was around until it was decided, and I'm not entirely sure why this was. I was too lazy to look it up, but they decided that Penetanguishene needed its own high school again. So in 1966, Penetanguishene was given that new school on the east side of town. So there we go. Here's our yellow sunshiny object.
Very good. And you know what? I saw that because you brought it with you for
That's
and
right.
I didn't even click in that was going to be your artifact, but it is a perfect artifact. And it is interesting because I learned something through this time capsule when I was doing some research, because I guess I knew that there was a Midland Penetanguishene District High School, and the high school here burned down. And I always thought that was the reason that the Penetanguishene students went over there and that it took them 10 years to build a new one. But I did find this week somebody did bring in and they donated a yearbook from the Penetanguishene High School that ended in 54. And they knew in that, or 50, I think it was a 54, 55 yearbook. And it said in it that they were like, so the whole fire thing that I always thought was the reason is not the reason, which just I discovered this week because they knew in that yearbook that would be their final year in Penetanguishene, and then they moved over. But the high school did catch on fire, and I'm sure as soon as that usually happens when a building becomes vacant as well, right?
That's right.
It was in that summer that the Penetanguishene High School did catch on fire.
Oh,
interesting, I think I also saw is the logo on the Midland Penetanguishene District High School. That was a logo, that whole logo there was adopted by the Penetanguishene High School for many years until they changed it and turned their mascot into the brave. Yeah, Penetanguishene Braves. So it's interesting that that moved back with Penetanguishene, didn't stay in the building that became Midland Secondary School. So
yeah, I wonder if the school just grew so much that they decided that it would just be better off to build a new school in Penetanguishene. That was something I meant to look up in the newspapers, because the newspapers are an incredible source of local history, like a lot of discussions on council meetings. And yeah, it's nice to go back to the original source rather than rely on oral history sometimes, where you get stories mixed up. And well, I heard, but when you go back to the newspaper,
yeah. And I do know, because we did have some of the original teachers from the Penetanguishene Secondary School that came here yesterday in the afternoon to view after the time capsule unveiling. And they said for those years, I think definitely in the late 60s, early 70s, the school in Penetanguishene, also kids from Victoria Harbor and Elmvale and a lot of those communities, Port McNichol, all went to Penetanguishene, which is sort of surprising. I didn't realize that. And, why? They didn't know that answer, but I guess there's always more research for us to do on all these matters, right?
Right.
So I did not go in that way. I should have, because the book that was donated was yellow, so I should have gone in that. But I went different. I don't know why we thought about this, but we do have these two decorative plates that have predominantly yellow on the outside of them. This is the other one right here. And it's a calendar plate, and both of these are from S.R. Gendron in Penetanguishene. They both have yellow in them. And this was a General Mercantile on our main street. And he had a street at 79 Main Street, which I think right now is Pulse Nutrition. And he was related to the Gendron that owned the shoe pack company which was on the corner of Main and Robert. And so he did sell the shoes there as well. But this was a very popular thing that they used to do, especially in the early 1900s, these calendar plates, and they can be quite collectible nowadays, depending on where they are and the time period. This one here is 1918. So that is like a little bit off from the major years that this was taking place, was 1905 to 1910 is like the major heyday for this. But this was an incentive that small stores and small communities would do to bring you back. So they usually would give these out around Christmas time as a gift for coming in and buying items there. There was usually a traveling salesman that would come around, and you could pick your print that came inside here. And you would choose whether you wanted to do a calendar one, which is this one, or if you just wanted to do a nice decorative image. And then you would have your company stamped on the bottom. And then you would start giving these out in December, and hopefully a lot of people would come to your place. And I thought it was interesting, this being the 1918, because this is during World War I. And you'd think there wouldn't be a lot of production like this happening, because these decorative plates were still in prominence until the 1950s, but they stopped production altogether for World War II for these. But I guess they kept them around in the First World War. And the Gendron Shoe Pack Company actually became a little bit of prominence during World War I as well, because they had those shoe packs that they made that were a variation of a moccasin and a boot. And I think I've showed them in a past show and tell. Mm-hmm. But they were actually commissioned. You could use them during World War I because they helped in the trenches. So I'm sure the company was doing very well by 1918, the family, and selling lots of shoes out of the shoe pack company, as well as our Gendron, so that he could invest in, which this would have been, because the bigger plate than this one, and it has a calendar on it, he can invest in something a little bit fancier. And the image in the middle, it has a volcano in the background there. And I think it's more, it looks like it's a Hawaiian scene.
So it's not Georgian Bay.
In the middle had absolutely nothing to do with the company or anything like that. Same with this one. This just looks like a big ship. It does look like it says New York on it. So the middle of them, this was just a design they picked for their year, and they would just stamp it and give it out. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, and we have these on display in our general store, and wow. I thought they're yellow, a little bit different.
Absolutely, those are amazing.
But so, and also, if you know of if you have any of those calendar plates at home, take a look at them, look them up on eBay, because some of them are kind of worth a pretty penny for some of them. I don't think this one is. Okay. But some of them are, depending, especially a lot of them in the States. So, so that is my artifact for today. And so next week, I thought, because a lot of times we're picking, small artifacts that we can show off on this show, that we can bring over and people can look at them. but we have large, you know, artifacts in our collection, probably a lot of large artifacts. So I was thinking next week, probably we'd only be able to show pictures of some of these, you know, but I'm sure there's a very large, or maybe the largest artifact you have in your collection to show off, and rather than, I know for me, I'm just always showing little things that are easier for the audience to view.
Yeah.
But I've got one pretty big artifact that I haven't talked about yet. So we'll wait till next week, and guess in the comments if you want what it'll be.
That's a really good topic. Okay. My mind's buzzing.
Yeah. I'm sure you've got lots of stuff there too, right?
Yeah. We do.
All right, so we'll see you again next week, and I hope you all enjoy the weekend. Goodbye.
Yeah, great long weekend. Bye, everyone.